but my heart belongs to Peoria.
This evening's board meeting. I will call this meeting to order at 6:03. Once again, as a district, we do have our mask mandates, so we ask that everyone in this boardroom and throughout our entire footprint that wear masks appropriately. So we appreciate you adhering to that protocol that we have in our district. That includes up at the podium as well. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Moment of silence, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Sorensen, would you mind leading us in the pledge? In this moment of silence, if everyone can please, we lost one of our younger learners most recently, and from Marshall Ranch, and so as we exercise a moment of silence, we can keep he and his family in our thoughts. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Dr. Sorensen. Okay, moving on to 3.1. Address the agenda, recommend changes, and consider approval of consent agenda. Board members, do we have any items that we would like to pull from the consent agenda?
President Sandoval?
Yes.
I'd like to pull item 6.3, please.
I'll second that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got the wrong number.
That's okay.
It was 6.8.
6.8. Ms. Contra, can we please pull 6.8 from the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We also have public comment on 6.2. So, Ms. Contra, can we, board members like to pull 6.2? Can I get a second on that, please?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen. Ms. Contra, if we can pull 6.2 as well, please.
Yes, sir. Give me just a moment to make those adjustments.
Okay. Take your time.
President Sandoval, I've pulled those items.
Should each board member refresh their screen, or will that cause everybody to get logged out? Looks like mine is buffering, but okay, I do need a motion to approve 5.1 minus 6.8 and 6.2 from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve 5.1 minus 6.2 and 6.8 from the consent agenda.
And just as a point of order, I think it's 3.1?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is 3.1, addressing the agenda. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Got ahead of myself. So, Ms. Contra, we have a motion by myself to approve 3.1 and a second by Ms. Underhill. Minus 6.2 and 6.8.
President Sandoval, could I clarify, was Mrs. Underhill the motion and you are the second? Or is that a reverse?
She was the motion, I'm the second.
Thank you, sir.
Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 4, 1 absent. Just as an update, Ms. Pingarelli will not be joining us this evening. Okay, moving along. Section 4, 4.1, recognitions. Ms. Airy.
Good evening, President Sandoval, members of the board, and Dr. Reynolds. Tonight, I am so pleased to introduce a special guest that is joining our meeting. While I always thoroughly enjoy the company of my cabinet members here, it is just so awesome to have a student with us this evening and sitting amongst us. It's my pleasure to introduce Maricela Gomez Rojas, Student Body President at Peoria High School. Maricela is also in... Oh, I'm so excited. In addition to serving as student body president, she is also involved with DECA and the AVID program there on her campus, and she has been a part of the Peoria Unified Family since she was in kindergarten, attending both Alta Loma Elementary School as well as Cheyenne Elementary School. As one of the leaders for her campus, she represents Peoria High School on Dr. Reynolds' Superintendent Student Advisory Council. You'll be seeing many of the leaders from that council joining us over the next few weeks as they rotate in attending these meetings. And certainly I know that will be part of the conversation that they have together, offering their reflections for Dr. Reynolds and for our team. So we look forward to having them with us, and we are just so glad to have you here with us, Maricela, kicking this off for us this evening. So thank you so much for joining us, and a warm Peoria Unified welcome here to our board meeting. President Sandoval, I do have one additional recognition this evening, but I'll pause here for just a moment in case the board members would like to make any comments.
Sure, no, absolutely. Ms. Hill, any questions, comments for Maricela?
We're just very happy that you're able to join us this evening. Thank you for attending with us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Dr. Sorensen? All right. Ms. Underhill?
I just want to say the same thing. Thank you for coming, and thank you for all you're doing for the students at Peoria, and just appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll echo those comments. I mean, it's always been important for the board and the district to make sure that, all of our stakeholder voices are being heard, and especially those that, who is our target audience, which is yourself and your peers. So certainly appreciate you and your leadership and taking the time, and just looking forward to seeing more of you here at the board meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so.
Thank you, President Sandoval and members of the board. I would like to welcome one additional guest to our meeting this evening. We are so pleased to have from the office of Congresswoman Debbie Lesko's office, one of her staff assistants with us, Mr. Austin Rowe. Mr. Rowe is here to briefly share with the board and our community some updates on behalf of the Congresswoman and some benefits she has that relate to our Peoria Unified students, some of the programs that she runs. So Mr. Rowe, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll welcome you to the podium.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you, members of the board, for the opportunity to be here tonight and just share for a few minutes. As Ms. Aries stated, my name is Austin. I'm from Congresswoman Lesko's district office, which is located out here in the West Valley in Surprise. And I just wanted to take a few minutes tonight to share about some of the student programs that the Congresswoman is proud to offer students in Peoria Unified School District, as well as other students across the West Valley. So typically, the first program we offer each year is the Congressional Art Competition. So the Congressional Art Competition is actually a national program that is sponsored by the Congressional Art Institute, and it allows students to submit an original piece of artwork to their respective congressional office, and the winners of that competition actually have their artwork displayed at the U.S. Capitol for the following year. Along the same lines, the Congressional App Challenge we put on every year as well. So we host the App Challenge. The App Challenge typically begins a little bit later in summer, the art competition typically in the spring. But the App Challenge is essentially the same thing. It provides students with the opportunity to code an original app, and the winning student from that competition also has their app displayed at the U.S. Capitol for the following year, and is typically invited to the large House of Code reception in Washington, D.C. with all of the other national winners. Another program that we offer is the Scholastic Achievement Program. So this program allows Congresswoman Lesko to present a special certificate of congressional recognition to students that meet a certain GPA threshold, display outstanding citizenship, and are specifically recommended by their individual principals. So this is typically a program that we work with individual schools on, and principals are able to request a certain amount of recognitions for any number of students on a quarterly basis, a semesterly basis, a yearly basis. And another program that we offer is Academy Nominations. So this program is specifically for students who are ages 17 and up. And so each year our office nominates students for the U.S. Military Academy, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, and the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And we also offer a what's called a surplus books program. So the surplus books program allows us to take books that the Library of Congress no longer needs, and we can essentially take specific requests from schools, from districts, from nonprofit organizations, and things like that, and provide those books to those institutions. And then finally, congressional recognitions our office offers as well. So Congresswoman Lesko constantly presents formal recognitions to outstanding individuals in the community. So this could potentially be students, but it could also potentially be educators, fantastic parents, those types of things. So those are just a little bit of the services that we offer. And if anybody is looking for any more information on those, they can certainly feel free to visit our website or get in touch with our office. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for the partnership. I mean, for us, it's, we're here for our students, and however we can enhance the student experience within PUSD by having partners like yourselves, is a win, without question. So thank you for that. Board members, questions, comments? Ms. Hill?
None at this time, thank you.
Dr. Newcomb? Ms. Underhill?
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, Mr. Rowe, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Ms. Airy, was that the, okay, perfect. All right, moving along to 4.2, board comments. Ms. Hill?
No comments at this time.
Okay. Dr. Sorensen? No, sir. Okay. Ms. Underhill?
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute just to once again really thank all of our teachers, our staff, our admin, our coaches, our cabinet for all the incredible work that they continue to do during this year, which has been pretty difficult circumstances. And I just wanted to tell them how much I appreciate them providing an outstanding opportunity to our 37,000 plus students. In one of the reports we got this week, it indicated that we continue to have one of the highest graduation rates as well as the lowest dropout rate in our state for 2020. So I just wanted to congratulate everybody for the incredible job that they're doing in the Peoria Unified School District. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Underhill. Yeah, for me, I think it was yesterday. I was watching the Sunrise Mountain Liberty basketball game online via PSBN, which is, Peoria's broadcasting network, which is a great conduit, between, the district and the community, and allowing, especially during these times, to be able to still experience, as a, family member, relative, et cetera, community, to watch, the sports and arts programs that we have throughout the district. So I really just want to just say kudos to PSBN and that entire team. It was a great game. It was very close. I'm sure, Ms. Underhill, you were probably watching that pretty close with your kids going to Sunrise. But again, just PSBN is just another one of those great programs that we have as a district, and it was really neat to watch it very fluidly without any skipping or buffering. But anyway, thank you to PSBN. Dr. Reynolds, superintendent comments.
President Sandoval, governing board members, our guests, cabinet, good to see everyone this evening. First of all, this evening, I'd like to recognize our director of preschool, Dr. Debbie Pischke. We learned just last week that Dr. Pischke received the prestigious Linda Levine Outstanding Leadership Award for 2021 from the Arizona Division of Early Childhood Education. Dr. Pischke is being recognized for the exceptional work she provides for children and families in preschool, and we are so fortunate to have her leadership in our district. So congratulations, Dr. Pischke. Dr. Lori Eldridge, an art teacher at Ira A. Murphy Elementary School, was selected as the recipient of the 2021 Excellence in Pre-K Art Education Award for outstanding national recognition in art education from the United States Society of Education through Art. Only one educator is recognized nationally each year, so a huge congratulations goes out to her for this tremendous effort. We're very, very proud of her. February is National Career and Technical Education, which is CTE month. We hope you have seen some of the work of our incredible CTE teachers and students in the Peoria Insider and on social media over the past week. We plan to continue to highlight this program throughout the rest of the month, so stay tuned for more information about career and technical education and the platforms that we talked about earlier. CTE in Peoria is a real source of pride for us, so we're excited for CTE month. Today is International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Barb Coakley, our leader at the Met Professional Academy, is working with the city of Peoria to help highlight some of their female students and the great work they are doing. They will be sharing positive examples of these students on social media. So if you haven't seen it already, again, stay tuned for that. And last this evening, we have launched our district's annual kindergarten campaign and are currently accepting enrollment for incoming kindergartners. Our schools will be holding both virtual and in-person private tours for families, and in the next few weeks, you'll be hearing more information about those events in kindergarten in general, so look for that, parents with incoming kindergartners, and we look forward to making you part of this family. And that concludes my comments.
All right, very good. Lot to celebrate in our district without question, so thank you for that. All right, moving along to 5.1, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. Once again, this item is, first of all, thank you again for those who have submitted a green slip. I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace this evening. There's some that have, looks like, 2 items that they would like to speak on, and some on other items that are actually on the agenda. So we'll get through this as fluidly as we possibly can. So, once again, board members are not allowed to have any dialogue on items that are not on the agenda or not agendized. So Dr. Reynolds and team will respond to your comments, questions, concerns, celebrations, as needed. That said, we do have 3 minutes per speaker and a total of 30 minutes for public comment. And again, I just ask that everybody respect our mask mandate even at the podium. So with that said, we shall get started on 5.1. Our first public comment comes from Miss Christina Rogers.
Hello, and thank you guys for being here tonight to listen to all of us. But I wanted to bring up the mask for kids. I just recently took my son to his doctor's appointment. He has asthma. And the doctor basically told me that the masks is making his asthma worse. We've never had a year that we haven't been able to get it under control, and now we can't. So he's missing out on wrestling because of his asthma, because he coughs, and so people think it's COVID, even though we've gotten a letter, we've gotten all of these things that we brought to the nurse's office to show that he goes through this every year. His wrestling coach knows that he goes through this every year, and he still is banned from wrestling because of his cough. Even though it has nothing to do with COVID, it has to do with asthma. We can't get under control because of the mask he has to wear all day. So I'm just asking for a couple of things from the board. If they can look into seeing if we can get kids who have these kind of issues to not have to be masked all day, while they're wrestling, and all of, these things that are just exasperating his asthma and has taken him out of things that he loves just because of his medical condition, because of these masks that he is required to wear. And then the other thing I would like for the board to also look into too is, or add to, is the quarantining of the kids. All these kids, because like my daughter's friends were quarantined because they were in contact with somebody, so they're quarantined, and literally 7 kids, not one of them got it, but they all were quarantined for the time. So what is happening with those kids that are being quarantined? Are the majority of them not getting it or are they getting it? So is it necessary to keep all of these kids out of school when nothing's coming of it? I just have this handful of kids to look at. That's why I'd like for the schools to kind of look into it deeper to see, or maybe add to the numbers if this is something that absolutely needs to be done, or is the numbers very tiny and none of them actually are coming up with COVID after being in contact with somebody. These are just the things that I'm concerned with as a parent that I would hope that you guys will look into, and especially for kids with medical conditions that are now, like my son, the mask thing. He has to wear it all day, and I have to choose between sending him to school or his mental health, because he's horrible at online school and he's struggling with wearing a mask all day because of his asthma. So as a parent, it's horrible to have to tell your kid you have to stay home to do online and fail, or you go to school and you can't breathe. So I would just ask if there's some grace in that policy with mask wearing for kids such as my son. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Next public comment is from Ms. Marcy Robb. Ms. Robb, before you approach, I just want to say, I just want to make sure that, as we approach the podium, I know it's not comfortable of wearing the mask, but it is important that when we wear our masks, that we wear them, over our nose and appropriately. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. Ms. Robb?
Hi, thanks for letting me speak tonight. I just wanted to come to you and speak as a teacher who has been in this district for 31 years. I work with the most amazing people. I work in an amazing school over at Ironwood. I love my job. I love my peers. It's a family. My administration is fabulous. I love being part of this district. And when I sit through these meetings, it becomes more and more frustrating for me because it becomes more and more negative as this COVID virus has gone on. And I hate to see that because I feel like it's almost like district office against teachers and parents against teachers and teachers against parents. And it's just, we're on the same page. And we all want the same thing at the end. We all want our kids to be successful and happy, and we all want to do it the way we see fit, and we all should have a voice in that. And I feel like we're not listening to each other, and we don't have the platforms to do that sometimes. And I think that needs to change. There are too many people out here who feel unheard. There are too many times that we sit and say, the parents, the teachers, the board, and I don't like that, and I hope that changes. So I'm doing my best to try to do that by trying to bridge some of those gaps. One of the things I wanted to do was tell you some really awesome things that are happening at our school. I looked at my kids today and said, if we take everything out of it and the things that you had to do at home, I know it sucks being at home. I know you don't like to do things at home. But what did you get out of that? Tell me what you learned. And they said, learning is happening. So I want to share with you what my students told me today. Students are learning differently and learning different skills. They're becoming proficient in a lot of different platforms and management skills. They specifically said they're learning that everything doesn't have to stay the same, and they do have to be able to cope with changes. They said they have to take care of themselves, and they have to help around the house a whole lot more because their people are at home with them. They develop better family traditions and ties and relationships because they play games together and things. They learn self-discipline, self-motivation. One kid said, I learned how to cook because my mom's gone and there's no food. One kid said, I learned how to manage time with my schedule because there's all kinds of distractions. One young lady said, I learned that wearing a mask isn't so bad because I don't have to wear makeup. One kid said it slowed down life to make them think about what's important. And I can tell you from being almost 60 years old and growing up going to college with a typewriter, I have learned to run a Teams meeting while teaching in person with labs and demonstrations. I've learned how to do breakout sections and talk one-on-one with students who need to talk to me.
Ms. Robb?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Next public comment comes from Miss Amy Lemons.
Hello again. I am Amy Lemons. I am a parent of 2 kids at Copperwood. I am a teacher at Ironwood. I am a community member, and now apparently I am a amateur public speaker. Okay. I don't really have an agenda. I'm just taking up my 1/10 of the time today. So I'm going to talk about some positive things that are happening in my classroom. We just got back, Ironwood, in case you're not aware, went on a 10-day quarantine, the entire school, which I would like to recognize the fact that there are metrics we didn't know. There they were, and we found them, unfortunately. I will say, having started back in person and going back online, there were some really positive things that happened because the second time around, the kids kind of knew what was going on. They were more prepared. There was more dialogue. Because we had a relationship already, we didn't have to start online. They knew who I was, so I could, call them out, like, I know that you're on your phone, that type of thing. They are more appreciative of the time that they're spending in class. They're actually engaged. I have a test tomorrow, and they're all really nervous about it. What else is happening? I want to recognize the fact that Ironwood is a really cool place to work. And I know that that is a common, or it has been a common theme in Peoria. I worked really hard to get here. When I started 17 years ago, you couldn't get hired in Peoria. I taught in Avondale for 8 years first before getting back over here. And I would like the district to get back there. Like, I know that this year is going to be really hard. We're going to lose a lot of positions, but we've got to figure out a way to build up our teacher morale, because if you don't have teachers, you actually can't run a school. So, what else? About a minute left. I have a poem by Amanda Gordon in my purse, but I left it over there, so I don't have it memorized.
Culinary is making us lunch.
Oh, Culinary is starting back up to make us lunch. That's really amazing. If you've never worked in a high school, elementary teachers, I'm really sorry for you. It's a really cool thing that happens, especially at Ironwood. We have our culinary program, the advanced program they make the teachers like gourmet lunches, and since it's COVID right now, they're going to deliver it to our classrooms so we can eat by ourselves. But normally we get to like sit out on like a little patio and they serve us. It's a really cool program that's going on there, and it's really great food. We had elotes that he gave us yesterday. That was amazing. Our little Coop kids are back on campus and they're adorable. What else is going on? Oh, the sports are starting back up. We got some games happening tomorrow. That's pretty cool. I got 10 more seconds. What else? I'm going to be coaching boys volleyball JV. That'll be fun. I did volleyball girls JV. That's awesome too. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Ms. Lemons. Next public comment comes from Ms. Kim Downey.
Good evening, President Sandoval, members of the board, Dr. Reynolds. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I have been teaching for 31 years, 25 in Peoria, and mostly 7th and 8th grade. And my students have always been my kids. Their joys have been my joys. Their pain has been my pain. Their success has made me proud. Their falls have inspired me as I watch them pick themselves up and keep going. I have been blessed to teach the spectrum of ability levels. I have taught homeless kids, refugees from war-torn countries, kids with a wide variety of religious beliefs, Native American kids, kids who speak multiple languages, kids from my own neighborhood, and kids from Guatemala, Turkey, India, Iraq, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Mexico, and Canada, just to name a few. Peoria is so rich in its diversity, which is why I have never before been as angry and as sad as I have been these past few weeks to watch myself and my colleagues attacked, bullied, and belittled as a vocal group tries to push their very specific political ideology, alternative history, and intolerance into the sanctity of our classrooms. If they choose to exclude their own children from learning opportunities, it is their choice, but depriving all children of an appropriate, accurate, and thoughtful education is not acceptable. It is the study of history and literature from multiple perspectives and connecting that study to ourselves and to our current world that allows us to avoid the mistakes of the past and to be better humans. It is quite literally my job as a teacher of the Arizona Adopted Standards to teach multiple perspectives in literary, nonfiction, and historical text, to facilitate rich, respectful, and civil discussions, to teach students to compose written and spoken pieces that are well-researched and that consider an opposing viewpoint, all while discerning valid, reliable, and verifiable information. What this group is trying to do is wrong, and I can't stand idly by and listen to them. I assert that if there is such dissatisfaction with their neighborhood public schools, it is so fortunate for them that they have other options in Arizona, a school choice open enrollment state. I'd also like to briefly address one other thing. The spread of malicious lies about teachers, administrators, and staff, both verbally in our communities and on social media. This cannot be tolerated. The email communication and phone calls received from some parents that is rude, disrespectful, and accusatory also cannot be tolerated. There are legal precedents in place that protect teachers and other school personnel. Thank you so much for your support and the privilege it has been and still is to teach in Peoria. My kids, the thousands who have been through my classroom, have blessed my life and have made me a better human being. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Downey. Next public comment comes from Miss Molly Glauser.
Hi, thank you. And just, I won't be mad if you don't remember, but it is Glosser.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay, no problem. It happens all the time. First of all, Marcy and Amy and Ms. Downey, thank you. Wow, like, I'm not on Facebook. I don't have a group to evangelize, but we are on the same wavelength, and I got to come in here and be positive. Our schools are amazing, amazing places. I mean, if I didn't do what I did, I would be a teacher. I love education. I love learning. I love talking with my children about every day about what they learn. And if I don't agree with something that happens to come home and out of their mouths, we talk about it. We talk about it. And to watch my children grow and synthesize the information they come home with every day, with all the adults around them to guide them, to help them work through things, and to come out with their own opinions. I mean, education just, it's amazing. It's such a privilege that we live in this country to have a free and appropriate public education. Wow, thank you, teachers, for coming. One thing I did want to say was this 30-minute rule with speaking, I don't like it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's here. For the record, I think we should just let people talk who are here. I also think maybe we should let people do online comments because there's a lot of reasons people still don't want to come to an in-person meeting. And this is the only way to put a public comment out. Just want to say that. Also, about the meeting 2 weeks ago, I was worried about dignifying those remarks even with a response. But those people were very strong in their convictions, but that they were ultimately dismissive of others' lived experiences and not interested in others' perspectives. And some were frankly racist. But ultimately, we make no progress by standing by in silence, and I have no Facebook group to evangelize and rile up. It's just me trying to do the right thing, and I don't believe what they said is what we want our school district to look like. We want happy workers, happy students, those community members that were here. What they feel is wrong with our schools is saddened me, and I don't feel they have an accurate picture of the actual day-to-day happenings in school. Second, I doubt they understand that the first step to successful teaching is making sure a student feels like they belong and they deserve to be there. Any student that heard those people's remarks may question that they are actually protected by this board and administration. And I know that's not causation, but there is a correlation. And the words said at these meetings matter, and that's why I'm here to counter those words. I call on the board and administration to continue to keep focused on rectifying educational inequities, continue to follow the research of how to best provide a top education to our kids to enter the global workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clausen. Next public comment is from Ms. Kate Munasco. Thank you for the guide, by the way, on how to pronounce your name. I appreciate that.
Mispronouncing names, I get it. So first time caller, but long time listener. Thank you for having me. Dr. Reynolds, governing board, members of the community at large. My name is Kate Manasco. First and foremost, I am a parent of a student in this district. I work in the district. I proudly serve the students of Centennial High School. But more than that, I am a community member as well. I've been affiliated with Peoria for almost 30 years. Like, I believe in Peoria. I live in Peoria. I send my kid here. My parents worked in Peoria. Like, we are Peoria people. I'm so honored. There is an Altaloma student and a Peoria alum. Where's Maricela? Good to be in your company. Once a Panther, always a Panther, for sure. So I wanted to come tonight because we love your kids. You have to know that. We love your children. We would do anything for them. You trust us with the thing that matters most to you, and I know that because I do that with my own son. My son's teacher is family to us, and my own students, they're my children. Like, in fact, I rarely call them my students. I call them my children, and I think most of us who teach do. So in this familial setting, Sorry, I had to write everything on my phone. I'm just disappointed that we're here. I'm sad. And like, I get it. I really get it. I taught virtually, and I made the decision that my classes could only be taught in person. So I understand the frustrations of virtual learning. My own son, he's a first grader. He got quarantined, so he was out for a week with his peers. They were all out. So we have felt the inconvenience of quarantine. So we understand your struggle because we're also living it, because most of us are also parents in the district. So I understand. Stephen Covey, he wrote the Habits of Highly Effective People. He had said that let me write this down. I don't want to screw this one up. That you need to choose to understand before being understood. And I made that choice a while ago. And we will have our disagreements, as any family would. But calling for the termination of our teachers, it's abhorrent. And who's going to suffer from that? They're kids, because they built those relationships through the semester, the years, however long that these kids have been present. And there's no one to replace them. There's no subs in our district, so who's going to suffer? And my dad always said that you should praise in public and criticize in private. So I'm going to invite you, choose to understand us rather than putting us on blast in a public forum. And because I'm a nerd, and because I have 14 seconds left, I'm going to quote Dumbledore. Understanding is the first step to acceptance, and only with acceptance can there be recovery. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Manasco. Next public comment comes from Mr. Mark Del Maestro.
I hope I'm not the only guy. I'm a combat veteran, and I've been speaking to high schools around the country for the past 21 plus years. And I get letters from the kids sometimes, and I can't read them. Can't read them. High school kids, I can't read. And one day I spoke at a school, K through 8th grade, and 8th grade was as low as I go. And a week later, I got letters from the kids, and everyone was written beautifully. Complete sentences, whole paragraphs, correct punctuation. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. So I called the teacher and I said, "Did you just send me the good letters?" And she said, "No, all our students write like that." And I said, "Well, how do you do that? How do you do that?" She said, "First, in kindergarten, they learn their letters and their numbers, and they learn how to write their name, and it's basic. And then first day of first grade, they're told that they're important. And in order to stay important, they needed to be able to write their ideas down so that everybody else can read them. So on the first day in first grade, they're to write their name, and the paper was passed around the room so every kid could read the name. And that lesson carried through every day, where they learned to write words and sentences. And she said by the time they're in 4th and 5th grade, they're all writing beautifully because they want to stay important and be relevant in their society and in their group. And she said by 8th grade, they're doing high school work, and they're reading, and they're doing incredibly better and well, all because they were taught how to write with a paper and pencil. So I'm saying, why didn't they do that in all the schools? If it's working like that, good. Why can't they do that in all the schools? So I'm sharing that with you because I think it's a good solution. And I'd like you to take it to heart and think about it, that if it's working in that school, why wouldn't it work in your own? I teach lessons of war that pertain to young people today, how great America's freedom is in God's work. And I know I'm not allowed to say God anymore, but I refuse not to. I refuse not to. God chooses the color of our skin. It's a simple truth. It takes the race card off the table. And it's so easy to do. So I ask you, think about maybe using that solution for your young students. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeMaster. Next public comment comes from Ms. Heather Rooks.
Hello, board members and superintendent. First, I just wanted to thank Mr. Sorensen for meeting with us moms this week. I would also like to say something positive about my kids' teachers at Estancia Elementary. One teacher hugs my kid goodbye each time he has to quarantine. Another makes my son feel happy in class. Another teacher has been supportive through my son's medical needs. And another teacher has welcomed my daughter into preschool. Now, my concerns about my child's education and the district's lack of including parents in their education. My fourth grader felt very uncomfortable in class with a video of the speech during the inauguration shown on January 22nd. I was not ever told that he would watch any part of the inauguration. This led me to research and figure out what is going on in your curriculum department. Why is it wrong for parents to want to know what is being taught in the classrooms and then being called racist for it? Under the Peoria School Board Statute 1-602, Parents' Bill of Rights, all parental rights are reserved to a parent of a minor child without obstruction or interference from this state, any political subdivision of this state. 15-102, parental involvement in the school. The governing board, in consultation with parents, teachers, and administrators, shall develop and adopt a policy to promote the involvement of parents and guardians of children enrolled in the district. So did the board members, superintendent, or the administration, particularly the curriculum department, include parents in the decisions of teaching Black Lives Matter and George Floyd in an elementary classroom? Why does the district continue to leave parents out of their child's education? Why can't the district work with the parents on developing a plan with parental consent forms for religion, sex, and politics/current events? In making a plan with informing all parents at each school as a district. Why is that so wrong to ask? I am tired of seeing parents frustrated because they are losing trust in classrooms, losing trust in the administration, particularly the curriculum department, and losing trust in the Peoria Unified School District. The district needs to rebuild the trust that the parents have lost with the curriculum being taught in class. I would like to see more effort from the curriculum department to help teachers and students with the basics, math, reading, and writing, instead of trying to indoctrinate our kids. Why do students know certain teachers' political affiliations in the classroom? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rooks. Next public comment is from Ms. Trina Berg.
Good evening, President Sandoval, members of the board. My name is Trina Berg, President of Peoria Education Association. Prior to winter break, PEA began an action letter, and I know you received that about 1,060 times. So I just wanted to kind of update on this action letter and to say thank you to the board and administration for listening to the desires of the teachers and community members who sent this letter. A few of the things that were in the letter were to increase pay for class coverage, and that has now been adopted and done for this semester or for the rest of the school year, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. One of the demands that we had, one of the requests that we had in the letter was to change the dashboard and update the dashboard. And Ms. Airy, thank you so much for your help in working with us on that. We do feel that the dashboard is much more user-friendly, more informative, and much more accurate than the previous versions we had. We also had requested that the COVID leave pay, COVID leave for positive cases be extended, and that has also now been adopted and is approved through March 31st. So again, thank you very much for listening to this staff. Another one was to help enforce the mask mandate at board meetings. We're still working on this, but thank you very much, Mr. Sandoval, for trying to enforce this. We know that it's not always comfortable, but we have to do this 7 hours a day. We are asking our students to do this, and we ask our students to follow directions. I very greatly appreciate the fact that you are encouraging other people to also follow those mandates. And then I think most importantly at this point, and Dr. Reynolds, I have a big thank you to you for working on the metrics with us. We have reinstated some form of metrics in this district, which is what we had wanted in the first place. That was the one big thing that we really felt we needed. especially since we built the entire second semester off the idea that we were going to have the county metrics, and then that was reversed at the last minute, we felt, and it really, based on all the work we had done to separate dual modality, if we would have known that the metrics would have been changed, we wouldn't have done all of that, honestly. We would have kept dual modality. It would have been much easier for us and for the students. We wouldn't have had to coordinate between all 7 high schools to get schedules on the same page. We wouldn't have reversed the dual, we would have kept the dual modality to keep our in-person class sizes down to help those mitigation factors. But after working through the metrics, after you listening to feedback, bringing it back to our stakeholders groups, going back and doing it again and coming back, we've seen the metrics now work. We have seen programs get shut down, we've seen grade levels get shut down, and as stated earlier, Ironwood was unfortunately shut down for a period of 7 school days because of the numbers based on the metrics and based on district working with our staff. So again, I appreciate all the work that we have done. I think this type of collaboration between us and the board and district and cabinet is really what our district should be striving to do. And you know me, I'm always going to ask for H policy, and I think it's time we implement and enforce or adopt some H policy language. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Last public comment is from Ms. Devin Updegraff Day.
All right, good evening, board members. I'm here tonight because I want to address a few important topics with the board. First off, addressing the teacher stick out. It's been exactly 1 month today that the Peoria Education Association teamed up with neighboring district associations to encourage fellow teachers, of course, to participate in a stick out that closed 13 schools, not just from in-person, but of course, all classes. Now, of course, I'm not here again to discuss why these actions are selfish and harmful, but I'm here to discuss the fact that it's been a month. 1 month, and this board has yet to make a public statement regarding this strike. It has been 1 month, and this board has yet to give the community that you represent as elected officials, your official position on the teacher code of contract violation on teacher strikes. This board has yet to condemn the actions of those who organized and have yet to give praise to those who did not use their students as pawns, those who chose the well-being of students as a voice. They are the heroes, and they should be praised and rewarded. I want to remind this board of who they represent. You are all represented by the voters, the community, and of course, taxpayers of the city of Peoria, not the PEA. It is not the duty of the board to focus, it is not the PEA. It is the duty of the board to focus on student achievement and implementing policies that will ensure the success for all students. Allowing teacher strikes to force school closures most certainly goes against that duty. As school board members, it is a duty to advocate for the quality of public education. Allowing certain activists to keep kids out of the classroom does anything but be an advocate for quality education. Finally, I want to address the fractured relationship between parents and the district. Parents are not a burden. Parents are not an obstacle to overcome. There have been recent incidents in classrooms that have left some parents feeling blindsided and uncomfortable. When asked for clarification on specific items taught to their child, parents have experienced resistance on getting requested information that every parent is entitled to by law. If the trust is going to be restored, honesty and transparency is an absolute requirement by teachers, principals, and the superintendent. Lastly, I will leave with a quote from Thomas Sowell. Rhetoric is not a substitute for reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Updegraff Day. Before we move on, I just want to make a quick statement, and I just want to say thank you again for taking the time. The expectation of this board is, as we host our meetings, is one of civility and respect. So it's important that we hear your voices. I just want to thank you for, respecting that expectation of the board. So thank you for that. Ms. Contra, 7.1, Human Resources Report. Remind me, was that 6 point? It was 6.2?
That was 6.2, President Sandoval.
Okay. So we pulled this item because there are, looks like, a few public comments around this particular line item. It looks like 2. So what I'd like to do is hear from those individuals tied to this line item at this moment. So the first individual is Ms. Updegraft Day. Sure, the other person is Miss Heather Rooks.
Hello again, board members. I was looking over the agenda and I saw a name on the human resource report. I'm still getting used to looking through everything on the agenda and how it all works. But I did see a name that stood out to me, Mrs. Sandy Goff. She is my son's preschool assistant to his teacher in the developmental preschool at Visansi Elementary. She is amazing. I've had her with my son for 2 years now, and she helps Mrs. Richter a lot, and everybody loves her, and I just wanted to come and share that with you guys because I think she is a great employee in your district, and she's kind to the students. She's kind to my son. He loves her. He runs up to her every time he sees her. So I just kind of wanted to, I saw that name, and I was like, wow, that's so coincidental that she's right there, and so I just wanted to kind of praise her a little bit. So thank you.
President Sandoval. Ms. Rooks, I didn't catch the name.
Mrs. Sandy Goff. Sorry, I can't talk through this.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Rooks. Okay, also on this line item is Ms. Updegraft Day.
All right, sorry, I had to email it to myself real quick from my computer. Oh shoot, of course I didn't get it. Let me grab my computer really quickly. So this is just going to be a quick little statement of just kind of reminder of basically state law when it comes to contracts, the teacher contracts. So real quick, since we're going to be talking about contracts with the teachers, in the state of Arizona, under common law, strikes by public employees are forbidden, as it is considered an act against the public itself. So based on the opinion of former Attorney General Gary Nelson, any teacher who participates in the strike after signing a contract has effectively resigned. A teacher resignation occurs after their contract has been signed, must be approved by the local school board, and a resignation without approval is guilty of unprofessional conduct. That is just a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Updegraft Day. Okay, the next item that we pulled from the consent agenda, Ms. Underhill, is 7.2, proposed memorandum of understanding.
President Sandoval?
Yes.
I apologize. We need to actually vote on that item.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yes. Board members, I need a motion to approve 7.1, the Human Resource Report.
I move that we approve 7.1, the Human Resource Report.
I'll second that. Ms. Underhill, we have a motion by, Ms. Contra. We have a motion by Ms. Underhill and a second by myself. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 4 and 1 absent. Thank you, board members. Thank you for that, Ms. Contra. Ms. Underhill, 7.2, proposed memorandum of understanding between Peoria Unified and Fry's.
Yes, I just wanted to pull this just to highlight our partnership with Fry's. I guess it's the Kroger company, and that valued partnership in developing our vaccine sites for our employees. And also wanted to highlight the hard work of our staff, because I know that that is no simple task to put that together, and I know they've been working very, very hard so that we can just go again to another level to ensure the safety of our students, staff, and our community. So thank you all for that, and thanks to Fry's, the Kroger company, for the partnership. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Underhill. Board members, comments, questions on this item? No? Good. All right, I do need a motion to approve 7.2, proposed memorandum of understanding between Peoria Unified and Fry's. I'll move that we approve 7.2. Need a second?
I will second.
Ms. Contra, we have a motion by myself and a second by Ms. Hill to approve 7.2. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes, 4 yeas and 1 absent. Thank you, board members. Okay, moving on to section 9, discussion items. 9.1, presentation of the Peoria Unified School District's annual financial audit. Ms. Myers and team.
Yes, well, good evening, President Sandoval, members of the governing board, Dr. Reynolds, and community. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of the fiscal year 2020 financial audit and single audit for the Peoria Unified School District. This evening, I am joined by Dennis Osich, CPA, principal with Clifton Larson Allen, the district's audit firm, and Michael Vaughn, CPA, the internal auditor for the Peoria Unified School District. Mr. Osich will provide an audit overview and discussion of the issued reports, as well as fiscal year 2020 USFR compliance questionnaire findings. The reports that we're going to discuss this evening have been provided to the governing board in separately addressed envelopes, as well as included as part of this agenda item. Mr. Vaughn and I will also provide additional comments on the comprehensive annual financial report and the district's approach to address audit findings. At the end of the presentation, we will be available to answer your questions. I will now ask Mr. Osich to begin his portion of the presentation. Thank you. Mr. Right arrow.
All right, well, I'd like to thank the board for having me here today. So I am Dennis Osich. I'm one of the principals with Clifton Larson Allen. So we performed the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020. So the reports that you have in front of you should be the governance communication, the comprehensive annual financial report, the single audit report, and then the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire. So I'm going to go over some of those briefly. But before I do that, just to give you an idea of what our audit looks like and sort of the timeline. So we had preliminary work. Obviously, it was a challenging year this year and a different year to do the audit. Fortunately, we had previously, before the pandemic even started moving more toward doing remote audits, not entirely, but doing more of it on the front end remotely versus being on site. So we did perform about 1 to 2 weeks of our planning and some of our off-site work, and then we were on site for about 3 to 4 days for some preliminary work. And when we do the preliminary work, basically what we're doing is internal controls, getting understanding of it, testing some of the controls that are in place. We also identify the major federal programs that we're going to look at that time, and then we do some of our testing on some of those major federal programs that we can do prior to year end. And then our second visit is our final field work. And so again, we were about 2 weeks off-site in October and November, and then we came on site for about 3 to 4 days to do some wrap-up of some of the items that we had outstanding related to the audit. So overall, we had about 495 hours into the engagement. We budgeted about 450, so we were a little bit over this year. Some of that was just dealing with some of the remote work that we had to do that we were a little bit over those budget hours. But generally, we come in around about 450 to 475 hours a year. So real quickly, this is just a high-level look at some of the reports that you have. So the governance communication, that's essentially what I'm doing here today, is just going over some of the significant items related to the financial statement audit. And so some of the things that we disclose in there is, number one, some of the significant estimates we make, or that management makes and that we test as part of the audit. The estimated useful lives of capital assets, the unfunded pension and OPEB liability, which is the other post-employment benefits, program revenue allocations, and compensated absences. So these are items that are based on either actuarial assumptions in the case of pensions and OPEB, or based on best estimates at the time. So we look at what goes behind some of those estimates to get a comfort level as far as the numbers that are reported in the financial statements. We encounter no difficulties, no uncorrected misstatements. It's actually common to have uncorrected misstatements. Those are usually generally immaterial amounts that we identify as part of the audit, but we need to present to the board if we do identify any of those, but we had none. No material audit adjustments. We had no disagreements with management, and we had there was no management consultation with other independent accountants. And of course, the management does work with consultants on different areas, but what this specifically refers to is if we had any type of disagreement as it related to an accounting matter or related to our opinion, and there was a consultation with another independent accountant, we would disclose that. And then we had no significant issues that we discussed with management. The comprehensive annual financial report, really our purpose is to issue an opinion on it. So we issued an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion, and basically what that means is that the financial statements are reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So for 2019, so the year before, the district was awarded the GFOA and the ASBO Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting, which is basically an award that's received for your financial statements that they conform to generally accepted accounting principles, and it's just excellence in reporting. They will be submitting that for the 2020 year as well, and we fully expect that they'll get that award for that as well. A couple of highlights in the financial statements. There was $16.1 million in school improvement bonds that were issued during the year. This is the final issue on the $180 million bond authorization that was done by the voters. $10.2 million increase in the net pension liability, and that is the Arizona State Retirement Pension Liability. That's a cost-sharing plan. And so basically what that means is that all of the governments within Arizona participate in the Arizona State Retirement System. Your portion of the pension liability is allocated to you based on your prior year contributions. So whatever your percent of the total contributions were, you're getting allocated a portion of that liability. And so that $10.2 million increase is largely attributed to the change in your proportionate share of that liability, as well as some other factors as far as the rate of return on some of those investments that the state retirement is doing. For the government auditing standards report, we had no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. And then in the uniform grant guidance, this is where we give an opinion on the major federal programs that we look at. So these are federal expenditures made during the year. We issued a clean opinion on that with no control deficiencies either. And then the Uniform System of Financial Records, Michael's going to go over that in a little bit more detail. But basically, we don't issue an opinion on that. Basically, it's like a 40-page questionnaire. We fill out yes or no. These are all related to statute. And so we design our procedures to address some of those compliance requirements. There were 3 reported compliance findings, which, again, Michael will go over those findings in his presentation. And that is submitted electronically to the Arizona Auditor General. So the comprehensive annual financial report, just real quickly overview on that. As I mentioned, we issued a clean opinion. We give an opinion on the basic financial statements that you see in the financial statements, and then an in relation to opinion on the combining an individual fund financial statements. So when you look at the financial statements, you'll see that there are the government-wide financial statements, and then there's individual fund financial statements, and there's a column that is aggregated for all the non-major funds. All the non-major funds are presented separately in what's called combining statements following the notes to the financial statements. And we're not giving an opinion on those individual funds, but rather just an opinion that in total that they're correctly stated as they relate to the basic financial statements. And then we just claim an opinion on the required supplementary information, the introductory section, and statistical section. So that means we don't give an opinion on that. And the reason we don't is because the transmittal letter is written by management. We do read the information for accuracy, but there really isn't anything to give an opinion on. And then the required supplementary information, again, is more of management's disclosure, or it's 10 years worth of pension or OPEB information that's presented. And then same thing with the statistical section. It's 10 years generally worth of data that's presented just for comparative purposes. Our audit's a risk-based approach, so every organization has risks within it. The areas that we focused on for Peoria Unified School District was management override of controls, revenue recognition, cash and investments, capital assets, and then the financial closing. This isn't to say that they were doing anything wrong. These are just some of the areas that we identify that could be higher risk for a misstatement to occur. And so when we design our procedures, and we identify additional procedures that we're going to perform over those areas to get a comfort level that there isn't a misstatement within the financial statements. So the single audit, we audited one major federal program during the year. That was the Title I program, which was about $5.3 million in expenditures during the year. The Title I program was about 20% of your total federal expenditures that we looked at. And as I mentioned previously, we issued a clean opinion. No significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, and what those are a significant deficiency would be anything where we felt like there was an error or a control deficiency that we felt was important enough to bring to the attention of governance, but not necessarily caused a misstatement, a material misstatement. A material weakness would be more of a control deficiency or some type of deficiency we found that either resulted in a material misstatement or that we felt was significant enough that could cause a material misstatement. And so we didn't report any of those this year. There was one reported in the prior year that was related to approval of time certifications. So when we do the 2020 audit, we always look at any deficiencies reported in the last year and follow up on them. And I'm happy to say that those were corrected for the current fiscal year. And then the government auditing standards report that's in that single audit report, we don't give an opinion on that. Instead, we're reporting on controls. So if there was any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, you would see that in the government auditing standards report, which is specific to the actual financial statements themselves. And then the report on compliance with each major federal program, we do issue an opinion. And as I mentioned, we issued a clean opinion. That opinion is on the compliance with the major federal program requirements. We do look at internal controls as well. We don't give an opinion on internal controls, but we do report on them. So again, if there was any type of deficiencies, those would be included in the report as well, which again, there were none. And then we do provide an in relation to opinion on the schedule of federal expenditures, that they're fairly stated, related to the basic financial statements. So then I'll turn it back over to Michelle and Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Osich. Mr. Vaughn and I will now provide additional general information about the district's comprehensive annual financial report and uniform system of financial records compliance requirements from the Office of the Arizona Auditor General. The Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, is one of the most important documents for any government or school district to establish financial transparency and credibility with its community, creditors, and oversight agencies, as well as investors who purchase the school district's bonds. The report provides a complete overall financial picture of the district, and we do publish a copy of the annual CAFR on the district's website for our community to access and review. The CAFR, as Mr. Osich mentioned, has 3 sections: an introductory, financial, and statistical section. And just to highlight in the report for the governing board as well as for our community on our website, the introductory section orients and guides the reader through the report and includes a transmittal letter from management. The financial section includes the independent auditor's report and contains management's discussion and analysis, also known as MD&A, government-wide financial statements, fund financial statements, notes to the financial statements, required supplementary information, combining financial statements and schedules. And then the statistical section at the end includes financial, economic, and demographic information. The transmittal letter and the MD&A, management discussion and analysis, describes the fiscal year's results and key factors influencing them. The fiscal year 2020 CAFR also includes factors affecting financial condition, and I have the page numbers listed for you: long-term financial planning, financial analysis, general fund budgetary highlights, economic factors, and future budget considerations can also be found in the transmittal letter and the management discussion and analysis. I will now ask Mr. Vaughn to join me to discuss the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire and related findings for the fiscal year 2020 audit, as well as next steps. Thank you.
President Sandoval, members of the governing board, Superintendent Dr. Reynolds, thank you for having me here tonight to walk you through the results of the district's fiscal year 2020 USFR compliance audit. Annually, districts all around the state are required to contract with an independent public accounting firm to have a USFR compliance audit as part of their annual financial audit. During the audit firm performs procedures over 19 broad categories of USFR requirements, ranging from cash controls to records management or attendance, to test the district's compliance over 176 specific areas of focus dictated by the Arizona Auditor General each year when the office publishes the USFR compliance questionnaire. Based on the response documented in the USFR compliance questionnaire, the Auditor General's office determines if a district is compliant, marginally compliant, or not compliant. The exact methodology for determining which level of compliance a district falls into is not published, but the Auditor General's office considers the frequency and intensity of findings in the various areas of compliance. I will take you through each broad area of the USFR compliance questionnaire to address the Peoria Unified School District's USFR findings for the 2020 fiscal year. The district had no USFR compliance findings in the area of governing board and management procedures, budgeting, accounting records, cash and revenue, and supplies inventory. The district had USFR compliance findings in two separate areas. The first is property control. This area covers the management and tracking of district's equipment with an initial purchase price of $1,000 or more, and land improvements, buildings, and building improvements with an initial purchase price of $5,000 or more. In one instance, the auditors found that one of the assets that was physically tagged as a stewardship item was not properly on the stewardship listing. The other property control finding covers disposals. When the district disposes of assets, management has been bringing major land or property sales or swaps to the governing board. The requirement extends to stewardship items, which are equipment with an initial purchase price of $1,000 or greater, as well as capital items with an initial purchase price of $5,000 or more that are disposed using state-authorized methods such as auction or trade-in. In the areas of expenditure, travel, credit cards and P-cards, procurement, and classroom site fund, the district had no USFR findings during the 2020 audit. The district had one attendance finding where partial day absences were not properly calculated in 2 out of 40 cases reviewed. In the areas of payroll, financial reporting, information technology, transportation support, records management, and general long-term debt, the district had no USFR findings during the 2020 audit. I would like to help put some of these findings in context for you. Non-compliance was infrequent, 1 or 2 instances in the tested population in each case. Additionally, there were not many areas of focus. The district had 3 findings out of 176 specific areas reviewed. However, district management takes USFR compliance very seriously, and we will be working to address the findings of the audit. Specifically, the asset disposals from fiscal year 2020 will be placed on a future governing board agenda for approval. In fiscal year 2021 and ongoing, disposals will receive governing board approval. Staff members attend continuing professional education through specialized industry groups, and utmost When we see noncompliance in our day-to-day work, we say something and provide real-time training where appropriate. Mr. Osich, Ms. Myers, and I are available to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn, Ms. Myers, and Mr. Osich. Questions, comments, board members? Ms. Underhill?
Thank you very much for that very thorough presentation. And I don't have any questions. I just want to commend you for the outstanding work that you continue to do. I believe that the report listed that we have received, that Peoria has received those awards 30 years in a row, if that's correct. And as a teacher, I would say 173 out of 176 sounds like an A. So just want to really thank you for your thoroughness, your continued, discipline in this area, and just appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Underhill. Dr. Sorensen? Ms. Hill? Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's every time we go through this, as we've gone through this over the last, 4 years, it's quite a task to, one, manage the fourth largest school district in our state, but to manage its finances, and then now through, what we're going through with, the pandemic and all those dynamics. Ms. Myers, you, Mr. Vaughn, and team, just thank you, for just your intentionality and what you do on a daily basis. I do have just a quick question around the, I think it's disposable assets. Do I have that correct?
Asset disposals?
Asset disposals, thank you. So is there, there's no threshold as far as the dollar amount that we dispose of on an annual basis, right? I guess my question is, by approving 2020 and 2021, that doesn't work. That's a fix to take care of that particular finding. It's not going to negatively impact our next fiscal year finances, I guess is the question.
No, and President Sandoval, members of the governing board, the example would be if a piece of equipment might have been traded in, or it was past its useful life and was obsolete and was then sold through auction. Those types of low dollar disposals will be coming in the future on a consent agenda item and listed out. All of our disposals have been within the guidance of the Arizona Administrative Code and the state statutes as far as the method of disposal. What we found with this finding is we also should have on a consent agenda item a list. So we weren't improperly trading in an item or disposing of it once it was past its useful life, obsolete. For instance, computers have a useful life, and that's an example of where you might dispose of an item. So we're just going to make sure we bring those forward on a consent agenda item in the future, and we'll remedy the deficiency for fiscal year 2020 at a future board member or meeting rather this year. And if I could also comment, our financial audit each year is also a reflection of the effort of many departments, including business services and our schools, and all of our administration and bookstore managers and secretaries being aware of our requirements and ensuring that they're following all of the guidance and statutory requirements within the uniform system of financial records. So it's truly a team effort.
Now, thank you for mentioning that. There's no doubt. To have that level of collaboration across our district and level of excellence, across our district. I know our finances have always been highly regarded and certainly not highly regarded, but highly decorated, on an annual basis. So thank you again for what you do as it relates to finance and PUSD. Really appreciate it. It's, can you remind me your last name again? I apologize.
Yeah, Osich.
Osich. Yeah. Thank you for all that you do and your partnership with the district.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to 9.2 health data update. We do have a public comment, but how we typically work this, we'll allow the district to go ahead and present, and then once the district is done, we'll allow the public comment to take place. Thank you. Mr. Moss, how are you, sir?
President Sandoval, members of the governing board, we're here tonight to provide you again some information on our regular board meeting update on how we're doing in the community and how we're doing with some of our information related to COVID. Most of the stuff we have today is really positive news for a change. As you can see, the numbers there, the number of cases has declined significantly, about a 40% decline in the last 2 weeks since we've reported information to you. Approximately a 3% decline in the percent positive of tests within our district, and a 5% reduction for our COVID-like illness, even reaching the point now that yellow square down there means that we've actually made it to the moderate range and got out of the substantial range, which would be red. So we're actually improving in all community spread benchmarks that's provided by the county. There's even better news in the fact that when we take a look at this graph that I talked to you about last week or last meeting, this is a graph of the actual number of reported cases per day, with the black line representing the 7-day rolling average of those cases. Remember, we get the information approximately 11 to 12 days old, and so we're actually reporting information that was the week of January 30th. The key to this is when you look at the line, you can see that the line as it extended, these days have already occurred. Consequently, we can see that the numbers will continue to decline for next week. We expect these numbers to be even lower than where they are today. So positive as we move forward. We'll continue to track it and see where we go in that process. As we talked about, this gives us information related to our community, but one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was that we were going to take any kind of information that had to do with changing what happens in schools based upon what else was happening in the schools. And I just put this up to remind us of the process that we've been going through. Now, since the last board meeting, in the last 2 weeks, we've only had 2 schools where we've had to run this process through. We work with the CRT team, with the schools, gathering additional information, talking about how many cases, how they're connected, all those types of questions that we ask through that process. And as we've worked through those in the last 2 weeks, we've not had to make any changes to any of the classrooms or grade levels up to this time. Now, obviously, we had one school that was impacted. You heard from the Ironwood teachers that we went to all virtual learning for approximately 7 or 8 school days. They have returned to in-person instruction on Wednesday, so they're all back in school from that time. So the process seems to be working. We're not having to use it as often as we've done in the past, and our community spread continues to go down. The final piece to COVID, obviously, is our ability to get vaccinated, and I think that Ms. Airy has some information on how we're going to move that process forward too.
Thank you, Mr. Moss.
Thank you. Good evening once again, President Sandoval, members of the board, and Dr. Reynolds. A slide that will be familiar to you that you saw the last time I presented, just with a quick update as we continue to reach out to our staff and try to gauge where our staff is with relation to receiving the vaccine or interest in receiving the vaccine. So we've had nearly 600 that have responded so far and indicated that for us. Again, that it is not required that they respond to that survey, nor is it required that they go out and seek the vaccine or participate in our upcoming vaccination. I shared with you last time we met as a board here, and we continue to share with our staff information on our upcoming closed pod event. Again, this is not open to the general community, but is exclusively for staff of the Peoria Unified School District, as well as others within the Peoria Unified footprint that fall into that category 1B, meaning they work with students, they are a teacher in a charter or private school, or do child care or child services out of their home. And so we continue outreach to those within our footprint to make sure they have this information. New for you is over the holiday weekend, we do expect to receive the link for all of our staff and all of these others to register, to actually go in and select a date and a time for that upcoming event. In the meantime, we continue with our planning, and we look forward to having a successful weekend. Our hope, of course, is to make sure that we can vaccinate those within our community that fall within 1B and within our district who are interested in receiving that vaccine. So at this time, Mr. Moss and I are available for questions. President Sandoval.
Perfect. Thank you both very much. Questions, comments, board members? Ms. Hill?
Yes, actually, I was wondering if you could maybe clarify for me. I think it was brought up earlier by a comment by someone out in the audience as well. If a student in a particular classroom does actually contract COVID, my understanding is everyone that was sitting around that child, or if it's a sports team, then they're all quarantined. Is that something that CDC is requiring, or is that the school board? I mean, who made that determination?
President Sandoval, Mrs. Hill, thank you for that question. Without getting us too far off of the agenda topic tonight of the health data, we have our COVID response team that works with our school sites, and we are following directions by Maricopa County Department of Public Health to make sure we are maintaining those safety measures.
Thank you very much. That clarifies for me a little bit better. So it's actually a mandate that's coming down from the Maricopa County Health Department. It's not the school specific. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Underhill?
Just wanted to say thank you guys again, and all the CRT people that are involved and all the schools, because I know it's a big, big process, hugely time consuming, and an extra job on top of your already large job. So just thank you very much. Thanks for all the work on the vaccination sites as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, as we continue along, we've always done a good job of, from a continuous improvement perspective, right? And having conversations with our sites, whether it be site leadership or teachers, staff, to understand, what may be coming around the corner, what they're seeing and we may not be seeing at the district level. So thank you for, always listening first to understand and then putting, really integrating, policies, really not policies, but protocol, across our district to ensure the health and wellness of all that we serve. So with that said, let's keep, certainly our foot on the pedal. There's no doubt that we're not out of the woods yet, but I believe the light at the end of the tunnel seems to be getting closer anyway. So thank you both very much. Appreciate it. Okay, we do have a public comment on health data, and that is from Ms. Heather Rooks.
Hello again. So I had a couple questions with the health data. So I've been hearing with the masks that we're using at the schools for the students. I've kind of had this similar experience with my child, not to the extent of high schoolers, but they're being written up, punished for the mask falling below their nose. Parents are just getting kind of wondering from like, what is the protocol? If they do have the mask falling below their nose, are we just gonna write them up, give them detention? I guess it's just kind of, it's confusing that that's happening. So that's one question. Another one is, again, I do wanna go back to what Mrs. Hill said with the kids quarantining when they're exposed to a student in the classroom or whoever in the classroom. Is there anybody that's keeping track of when these kids, big group of kids, are being quarantined at home and coming back? Are they getting tested? Is it negative? Is it positive? Are they coming back sick? Are not coming back sick? Like, are they, I guess I just want to know, is there any way to track that kind of information so that we can see what's going on with those kids that are quarantining every time? And then my other one was with the closure of Ironwood High School. I guess it was 3 weeks ago. I had looked up that night the data online, the little link for that, and it showed that it was at weekly total 13. And then I saw under there Sunrise Mountain High School weekly total was 15. So I'm just kind of confused as to why Ironwood High School was closed if there's 13 cases. And then Sunrise Mountain had more cases at their high school. So I just didn't understand where that come from. So those are the three kind of questions I wanted to know for the health update.
So first of all, what I would say is I would encourage you that if we have parents out there that have questions regarding masks at their school or any any situations that they have regarding discipline or anything like that, that they should absolutely reach out to their principal so that they can walk through or talk through what that looks like. We do not have a district-wide policy, or rather a procedure on student discipline for mask wearing. The second point, help me.
Quarantining the kids.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, is coming back and forth.
Yeah, so that we've talked about that quite a bit throughout our time in trying to walk through our mitigation strategies. We still understand, and the county works with us very closely and in direction with making sure that quarantining is remains a mitigation strategy for us. As we've shared before, it becomes really challenging to try to track that data as students are at home. We are reliant on parents communicating with us, letting us know, and if, so we don't track that data specifically only because it is completely reliant on a parent, family member letting us know what that looks like. So we have anecdotal data, but we don't have specific numbers with that. And lastly, you had a specific question around Ironwood High School. And I thank you for asking that, because that question came up a couple of times. And I think we left the presentation, but if you remember our graphic, there are multiple pieces around that wheel. And I'll just let them take a second and bring that up. There are multiple pieces in that go into that decision making. And so when you look specifically at cases, that's only one component. With Ironwood, it was in relation to outbreaks, an outbreak that was determined by Maricopa County. And as we reviewed that outbreak and looked at the clusters within the outbreak, it was determined that with the county that it was the right thing to do to pause in-person instruction to make sure that we didn't have spread continuing in the school.
Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk back or not. Am I here or no? I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, I think, Kim, I don't recall if there was any time left on the 3 minute for Dr. Reynolds.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
So thank you for that explanation, but I guess, so I just want to make sure that Sunrise Mountain didn't have an outbreak of clusters then. It was
Correct.
only Ironwood that had an outbreak of clusters. Okay, all right. Still very confusing. They have more cases at a school.
Yeah, it's as we've shared many times, it's a very complicated process. Our CRT works very closely with the county, with the site leadership, and to make the very best decision for each individual school.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rooks. Dr. Reynolds, thank you. No further questions, comments. We will move on to 10.1, upcoming meetings and events. Ms. Ari?
President Sandoval, no updates to share with the board this evening.
Okay, thank you. 10.2, legislative, state, and local updates. Ms. Myers?
Yes. Good evening again, President Sandoval, members of the governing board, and Dr. Reynolds. The 55th legislature first regular session is still underway, and bills have been moving through the legislative process. As of February 5th, the 26th day of the session, 1,645 bills and 105 memorials of resolutions have been introduced. For this time period, 15 bills have passed and 1 has been signed by the governor. Monday, February 8th was the final deadline for bill introductions for the 2021 legislative session unless special permission is granted. Also this week, a Maricopa County Superior Court judge denied a request for an injunction to halt the implementation of the Prop 208 surtax, which was passed by Arizona voters in November of 2020. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Dr. Reynolds, anything to add? Good. All right, thank you. All right, 10.3, Budget Facilities Planning and Construction Report. These reports are informational, and they are on our website. Section 11, Other Business. Board member opportunity to readdress agenda items. Does any board member have any items that they'd like to readdress in this evening's agenda? No? No, we're good? Perfect. All right, 11.2, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Before we each individually go through this, we do have a public comment on 11.2, and that is from Ms. Heather Rooks.
Hello again, board members. On behalf of many parents, I would like to request the discussion by the board members of the organized sick-out staged by the PEA to be added to the agenda at the next meeting. They use school district emails. This is breaking a law. Parents are still upset and would like to know what the board's thoughts are and what will be done to prevent it from happening again. Other teachers were bullied into joining the sick-out or not wanting to participate at all. That left everybody upset that day. There are teachers that showed up, there were staff that showed up, and they were left stranded. And I don't think parents like that it just is being kept quiet. And they want to hear from the board members that they elected on what is going to be done to prevent this from happening again. I would also like to add to the agenda a plan for parental consent forms for sex, religion, politics, or current events. We all have a right to be in this district for our kids, and we want transparency of the controversial curriculum. I know I've spoken to Dr. Reynolds a little bit about that and seeing if that can be brought up with a team. There's lots of parents that are asking for that. We just want transparency. We want to know what is being taught to our kids, and I think there needs to be a plan with parental consent forms for controversial topics right now in our world. And everybody knows what they are. We can't play the, well, I don't know which ones they could be controversial card. We know exactly which ones. Everybody does what is controversial. And it's our right as parents to know what it is that's being taught, and if we don't want our kids to be taught to it, then we can opt out of that. But we can't opt out of it if we don't know what it is. How are we supposed to know? Are we supposed to wait till it's already taught and then pick up the pieces of our kids? That's not right. So that's why I'm asking for something to be added to the agenda for some type of discussion, a plan, meeting with a team, figuring something out. We want to hear from your voices of what parents are asking for. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ricks. All right. Board members, Ms. Hill, do you have any items that you'd like to request for a future governing board meeting?
Yes, I do. I actually have two. I wanted to see if I could ask for a motion to discuss and evaluate block scheduling in the schools for a future board meeting.
You want it as a study session? Or
yes, a study session. I'm sorry, I think I said board meeting.
Okay. Now, I know we went through that discussion, I think, was it about a year ago? Is that right? I'm wondering if it'd be appropriate to go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking for more or less to discuss and for a reevaluation to kind of see how it's working, you know, if it needs to be addressed and looked at for maybe some changes.
Sure. No, I mean, there's no doubt, and we've gone through some changes over the last, 7-8 months or so. And but I think, I wonder if we can get an update, on that discussion that we had, maybe at a regular board meeting. Would that be acceptable? And then we can kind of go from there?
Yes.
See where that takes us? Does that work?
Thank you.
Dr. Reynolds, you're going to mention?
So the topic is
You're asking?
block scheduling.
Yeah.
That's a very, very large topic. So I think And maybe it would be good if Mrs. Hill and I, we got together and talked about what that might, how we might focus in on a specific topic
Okay.
within block scheduling.
Yes.
Happy to do so.
Okay. Perfect. Anyway, I'll second that. So, go ahead.
And I guess I would like to see for the study session, if possible, to address the parental consent forms in the classroom. So if that is something that needs to be looked at, addressed, maybe we have to make some modifications if there aren't the proper consent forms, or if we need to make sure that they are properly given out to parents with certain subjects that are being taught in the classrooms.
Okay.
Maybe for a study session, possibly.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just need a second for that.
I just have a question. I know we do have policies on, and we do have permission slips for showing films and field trips and those kinds of things. Would that pertain to that policy, and would it be a review of that, or I'm just...
It could potentially.
So I'm wondering, would that, maybe we can look at a FREDA report on what that policy looks like now, right? Because I know at the beginning of each year, if I'm not mistaken, all parents fill out, all their paperwork, which includes some level of consent. If we can get a FREDA report on that, and then we can move from there based on, some of the commentary that we've heard this evening.
Perfect,
Is that
thank you.
acceptable?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, I'll second that. Ms. Contra, are you clear on that, that last request?
President Sandoval, I am clear. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Any other items, Ms. Hill? Got it. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Senator? Okay. Yeah, I don't have any items either. I do appreciate everybody's time this evening. And again, always appreciate everybody attending and expressing their voices. So with that said, I do need a motion to adjourn. I'll move that we adjourn this meeting at 7:49. Can I get a second?
I will second.
All right, Ms. Contra, we have a motion by myself, a second by Ms. Hill. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 4, 1 absent. Thank you, board members, and thank you, everybody. Cabinet, Dr. Reynolds. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.